Welcome to It Matters. Thanks for joining me here today. It's 10:17, and you know what? I'm just going to say it's cold. It's colder than cold. It feels colder than that. And so we're just going to stay inside and listen to the radio and have some fun today. And there is an event coming up that I think you're going to want to attend. It's coming up on Wednesday, January 28th from 6 until 7 p.m. in the Bremer Room at the St. Cloud. I believe it's at our regional library here in St. Cloud. Alison Young is joining me today. And as I've been reading about her, I'm like, we have so much in common. We both played flute. Of course, she was a professional. I was not. We both like music. She was a musician. We were both broadcasters. Alison, thank you so much for joining me today. We've got so much to talk about.
Hey, Callie, it's great to be here.
So you were a former NPR host.
Yes, I was at Minnesota Public Radio as a classical music host, and that was kind of a second career. I shouldn't say kind of. It was definitely a second career. I was a professional flutist and did all the things. Like I played with the Boston Symphony. I played with Leonard Bernstein. I did all that great stuff. But I developed a neurological condition, which ended my flute career. And so at least I couldn't play fast anymore. I mean, you know, as a flutist, like you can't just play slow melodies, right?
No, right.
So, so I made sort of one of those career transitions where it's like, well, what are the transferable skills?
Right.
I love classical music. I tell stories. You know, I kind of know how to be a cheerleader for music, and I get it. I get, you know, what it feels like to be inside an orchestra. So I got into classical hosting, you know, on public radio. I started in Texas and then came up here to Minnesota at American Public Media in Minnesota Public Radio and worked here for 13 years as a classical music host.
That is amazing. I just love hearing your story. And this is something, what you have created here and what we're going to be talking about today is something so unique. I've never even heard of this, but I'm so excited about it. You've got, it's about the Minnesota State's grant project, and it's called Art of the State Parks. So you were a recipient of a Minnesota State's Arts Grant. Explain to me a little bit about what you've done with that.
Okay, yeah, I will. I mean, I just want to say one really quick thing. Okay, so I'm a total music nerd, right? But I'm also a sponsored athlete. So you're like, okay, really? Does that really happen in real life?
Right.
And it's because throughout my entire life, I've been so interested in walking. I mean, just like my earliest memory is looking at my little toes and, you know, watching them walk away from my toxic family, and going out into nature, you know, and feeling this kind of freedom and feeling this kind of grounding. So I've been a hiker all my life, even when I was a flutist, even when I was a radio host, got very, very obsessed with it, pretty much, you know, like hiking anytime I could, taking these long trips. Anytime I had vacation, you know, I'd go for like 4 weeks somewhere, walk the entire length of the Alps, you know, another 4 weeks and do, the Sierras in California. And then it became like super obsessive because I walked the entire length of New Zealand about 7 years ago. Yeah, and then went from there. So anyway, the upshot of it is that after I left public radio, I combined all the things, you know, so creating stories, you know, kind of radio stories, NPR-like stories, you know, where you have the ambient sound, you have field recording, sound, you have your own voice telling the story, and also like a little bit of music in there. But, you know, it's all that kind of creating an experience for the listener because I can't see what you're talking about. So, you know, I got kind of obsessed with that. I created a podcast called it's just Blissful Hiker podcast that brings you on these journeys. So, you know, we go to New Zealand together. We go through the mud. We go up into these stormy alpine regions. And part of, like, getting obsessed with that was just, like, what it felt like, you know, or I should say what it sounded like, you know, like walking on snow was one of my first stories.
Yeah.
Because we know, I just heard you saying how cold it is in Minnesota right now. It's really cold. It's brutal. And like the sound of your feet on snow is different when it's really, really cold and then when it's kind of squishy. And,
absolutely.
You know, so I just got obsessed with that. Yeah. So anyway, the upshot of it is that I applied for a Minnesota State Arts Grant. It's a creative individuals grant. And, you know, because I've been doing this podcast, I mean, I have like 130,000 downloads. So people are really, they really like my stories. so I went from there, but I brought it back home into Minnesota. So I'm a Minnesota resident. I live in St. Paul, and I wanted to show the experience, through sound of Minnesota state parks.
Gosh.
So I chose 4 parks through the 4 seasons.
Okay. Oh, this is so neat. So you have these new audio narratives, and are these all a part of like your podcast? Is that or not? Or is it?
Yeah, they are. So the podcast, it's kind of interesting. So I'll take you to New Zealand. I'll take you on the Pacific Crest Trail. I'll take you to the Pyrenees in France and Spain. But sometimes I also do audio narratives that, and basically an audio narrative, as I said, is kind of like a radio story that sometimes like look into deep thoughts. I'm a middle-aged woman. I have fake hips now. They're titanium. I've survived cancer. How do you keep moving forward? So it's not just about like telling you about the journey, but it's how the journey can, inspire you to keep moving forward, to deal with difficult things in life. And so there are always different topics. And Minnesota State Parks one. Yes, I got a grant to work on those because, I had to go out and get the sound, take the time to put them together.
Yeah.
But they are in my podcast, too. So you can listen to them now if you want to, or come to the library event. I hope you will. Yeah.
That is so neat. So it's going to be not this week, but next week, Wednesday, January 28th, 6 to 7 o'clock in the Bremer Room at the St. Cloud Great River Regional Library, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Next week. So, we'll talk about a lot of things. First of all, I'll play the 4 episodes. So I go to Lake Itasca in spring, Grand Portage, so it's really around the state, Grand Portage in summer, Blue Mounds way out in southwestern Minnesota in fall, and then close to you guys, Lake Maria in the winter, which actually was a little bit disappointing because when I got there, it was great to be in the park, but I wanted real winter. And it was sort of that in between. Everything was melting.
Oh.
And I thought, this kind of stinks. And I stayed in one of the cabins, and it was just kind of, it's melty. But the sound of the park was so loud because all the creatures were like, hey, we love this. It's warming up.
So it turned out pretty good. Yeah. So it turned out to be something not that you were expecting.
Exactly.
I love this.
And yeah. And so when I applied for the grant, it was that I would spend more time in these parks to let the parks tell me what they want me to hear, that they would speak to me rather than going in and saying, okay, I'm just hiking through and I'm just getting whatever sound. It was like, what is happening in this park? And that was just like a really cool experience for me.
I bet. When you went to these parks and did that, it had to take, several hours, or did you do it multiple days? Because to get what the park is trying to tell you, I'm sure you're looking at the trails like, where should I walk? Is there falls over here?
Yeah.
More animals. I can hear more in the forest over here, right? It's trying to capture the whole thing.
Yeah. When I went to Grand Portage, for instance, when you drive up the North Shore, sort of what everyone does is like you stop at every single state park as you go up.
Yeah.
And, and I did all that. And I stayed for several days. And it was fun. I walked around. I did my hikes. And it surprised me that Grand Portage really spoke to me. And I think it was because just the force of those falls. They're so huge and they're so oh, right, there's no way you can get through here on a canoe. So First Peoples and the Voyagers, everyone who came through the land dictates how you interact with it. And also what was really interesting to me as a radio person, as a musician, was how the sound of the falls changed from your perspective. So you're listening to it straight on, you're turning, you're going to the middle falls into the forest, and all that sound disappears. And then when it comes back, it's the river, the smaller falls, but I can walk out next to the middle falls. So it was just like, this is really cool, the sound of them, but also just the power and the demand for respect.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I just think it's lovely. It's so different. So I'm excited that you're coming here and you're going to share these 4, I guess, narratives with us, because it's something that's really, really unique. And When I think about what you do for a living, I'm like, wow, you really did craft something that has a very unique ride, right? A very unique path for yourself. It's not something we hear every day. I was like, what is she? Oh, she's a musician. Wait, she also is a speaker. Wait, she also does this. So I just think it's really neat how you were able to pull all of this together and share it with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's funny. My great-grandmother had this saying that life may be short, but it's also wide. And it's such a great way of seeing the world. My great-grandmother also had a lot of physical ailments, and so I didn't know her. She died before I was born, but I heard about her, and I knew that, like my life has had things, I've got stuff that I have to manage, but it's like we have enough room to do other things, to experiment, to try stuff, to fill it up. And I'm very, very lucky to have access to so many ways to make a living, but also to express myself.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So 2 things. I want people to write down Blissful Hiker for podcasting. If they want to listen to your podcast, right? We can still listen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So blissfulhiker.com is my website, and I'm called Blissful Hiker. Can I say this really quick?
Yeah.
I'm called Blissful Hiker because when I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, this guy on the first day watched me walk in this beautiful place in the Cascades, and he's like, you are going to be smiling all the way to Mexico, 2,600 miles from here. You're so blissful. And it was so ironic because it was like one of the worst times of my life. Like everything was going to heck. And so the fact that I was smiling was sort of ridiculous, but it's like an aspiration to keep putting your feet forward, to keep going into the unknown, and trying new things. So Blissful Hiker is my trail name and my website, and you can listen to the podcast there. You can look up Art of the State Parks, which is the name of this project. And also you can see a bazillion pictures from trails on 6 continents. I've hiked like 14,000 miles.
Gosh, it's just amazing. Well, I hope that we get to meet you. I hope the audience here is listening to show up on Wednesday, January 28th at the Great River Regional Library in St. Cloud, 6 to 7 o'clock in Bremer Room 104. It's basically, I believe, right when you walk in and off to the right. Alison, thank you for spending some time with me today. It was so nice meeting you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kelly. Take care.
All right. I think it sounds spectacular. And I've looked at some of the pictures and they're just beautiful. So what a story. And I don't know about you, but I just can't wait to hear more. So let's all meet up over there. Not this Wednesday, the following Wednesday, January 28th, 6 to 7 in the Bremer Room 104 at Great River Regional Library, St. Cloud.